So just would point out here in a minute a few high points in that document. Let me tell you what else the RCSC is doing in addition to that. This year, our main challenge is going to be the implementation of that SWMP. And the recommendation in that document is for the formation of what's called a transboundary water management institution. And you will have heard of those multi-state, multi-river basin institutions, like on the Delaware River Basin that goes into the Chesapeake Bay, the Colorado River. Part of that study and part of that plan researched those types of institutions around the world to find out what would be best for the ACF so that we could protect the Apalachicola River and Bay. We also successfully had a person work with the state legislature, with Senator Montford's office, to get the Fish and Wildlife Commission to fund a study of 20 miles of the Apalachicola River from the Chipola cutoff up to Lake Ammonia to begin what we hope will become an Apalachicola comprehensive recovery and management plan for the river and the bay. It would be similar to the document for the ACFS, but it would be just for the Apalachicola River. That's a geomorphological study which studies how the river flows, how the channels change, and why the banks are eroding, the depths, why the floodplain's not flooding. Got to have a scientific study and the basis for the argument, which Senator Montford describes as simple as anybody I know, which is flood the floodplain, and that impacts the bay. This is the 200-page document that essentially says it. So we've successfully done that. That study actually starts next week. And then the other thing we've done that y'all will be interested in is we have a consultant that's going to get the Riparian County Stakeholder Coalition an application from the 6 counties into the FDEP Restore portal to support the development of that plan and projects throughout the basin. Each of the counties will have their own things, and we know that the 2 Franklin and Gulf counties are in the 8-county thing, but the other 4 counties, some of the big issues up there, stormwater management and other issues that could be helped with the funding from BP. So that's coming up. I think we're waiting on I guess it's the consortium to decide. I think they just hired their attorneys and they haven't decided what they're going to fund, and we want to make sure our application is directed to what they're going to fund and we don't miss that target. So with that, I would just say we appreciate your funding again for the RCSC so we can continue the work that we're doing. And if you have a minute, and if you could give them a copy of this, I could take you briefly through this in probably 3 minutes, just to point out a couple of the high points. There are, you want to do that? I can do it probably in 3 to 4 minutes. Because it is a lengthy document, and I think I'll say this while he does that. It's important to remember that this plan is a consensus document put together by 56 governing board members over the last 4 years, and that means that everybody had to vote to agree to accept this plan. So it's not like you do here where you have a majority vote. Everybody that voted on this had to accept it. So as such, don't take this as something you can cherry pick certain elements out of. You need to look at it as a suite of recommendations that go together. And as you look through here, you'll see what we mean. For instance, when we recommend that you raise Lake Lanier 2 feet. On the surface, that sounds bad. But you need to understand that's tied to flows on the Apalachicola, particularly pulses at certain times of the year. So please be careful when you look at this. Don't just cherry pick it. Let me take you to the front page, which is a letter from the RCSC that lists a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, some of the high points in the study. Just to take you through it for a minute, I think you'll be interested to know if you look on the second page, second and third page are the acknowledgments, where the funding came from and who participated. And I know as you look across that, the executive committee members, the technical oversight and coordination work group members, and the governing board members, you'll recognize folks like Dave McLean and myself and Shannon Hartsville and Betty Webb and other commissioners in this basin, Ward McDaniel and others worked on this plan. And if you look to the second page of those acknowledgments, in the top column there in the middle is the Florida Riparian County Stakeholder Coalition. And that's where the funding you have contributed went directly into this plan. And that was from everything doing bay assessments and in-stream flows, to providing facilitation, to actually printing this document. So the other thing I think you'll be interested in is if you go over to page 1, there's an executive summary. It's 6 pages long. That means you don't have to dive into this whole document. You can get the gist of the whole thing right there. And at the end of those 6 pages is a nice map of the basin. And you hear all this stuff about reservoirs and dams and all these different locations up and down the basin. You can familiarize yourself with those on that map. I think the most important part of the document, or one of them, is on page 62. 62 is the chapter that has the recommendations in it, and those are divided into themes. I'm not going to go through them. You can read them. The one that I think we are most interested in, well, let me just say this. 2 weeks ago, 17 of us went up to Atlanta, sat down with General Turner, South Atlantic Division Commander of the Corps of Engineers, and Colonel Kitka, and presented this plan to them. In these recommendations are recommendations specifically to the Corps and for the water control manual update. Those are just part of that. If you go to page 88, any plan that's not going to end up on a shelf has to have a way to implement it. And where it says strengthen basin coordination at the top of page 88, that's this transboundary water management institutional option. And we're trying to get the Corps and the federal agencies, the congressional leaders, and the 3 governors to sign on to this idea that we need some kind of an institution that manages the water in the whole basin, because that's what the problem is. There's no captain. That's another Bill Monson. No quarterback. Depends on which meeting you're in. Here's another important part of this document. Because it was a consensus-based document and 56 people had to agree, we wanted to make sure that the stakeholder interests that did this also had their perspective in there that was not subject to the consensus agreement. So on page 100, you'll see the Apalachicola Subbasin. You'll see the upper Chattahoochee Basin, Atlanta Regional Commission, all those water folks. The Flint River Basin and the lower mid Chattahoochee each have the things in here that they wanted that they maybe didn't get. So I think those are important things to read and remember. And then we included in this document the study that was done by 5 universities to develop a transboundary recommendation for a water management institution. And that's the last half of the document. So that's just a brief overview. We appreciate your funding coming up in the next year. I think if we get this institution stood up, we'll have federal and state money coming in here to help us manage this whole ACF basin. I can't tell you right now what that means to the individual 6 counties. That just depends on how the institution is set up. I already mentioned Janice and the ARPC. I think you all know Janice. So we appreciate your budget support. We have on there the website where you can download this thing, and there are other documents behind it, as well as contact information. So if you have questions, of course, y'all, if you look across those acknowledgements, Anton Meyer knows as much about this, Dave McLean, David Webb, Phil McCartney. There's a lot of us in here that work on that and stand up here and answer your questions as well about it. So we appreciate your time, and that concludes my comments. If you have any questions,
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. Was that you? Ready?
Sorry about that.
Florida County Commissioners back in session. Ms. Marcia Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have my report before you. I just need some board action relative to the Value Adjustment Board. 2 county commissioners must be appointed to serve on the board, and we need a citizen member who owns homestead property within the county, and that member cannot be a member or employee of any taxing authority. Mr. Walter Armistead has graciously served in the past and has expressed a willingness to serve again. I think Walter's in our audience. Thank you, Walter. So,
Mr. Chairman, I don't mind serving.
I'll serve. I make a motion, we nominate the chairman and Commissioner Sanders to be our value adjustment board members.
I second that motion. You want to add Walter Armstead in as the public representative to
And
that?
I'll amend the motion to include Mr. Armstead as a citizen member to the VAB.
Okay, and I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
thank you.
Wasn't that easy?
Oh, I have that.
Thank
Very
y'all for
easy.
doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Y'all did it
Chairman
last time.
Massey and I did it last time.
I've been sitting on it ever since I've started being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mr. Schuler, County Attorney.
I don't have a report for the board this morning.
All righty.
Okay.
Mr. Michael Morone.
That's me, sir. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
Item number 1, inform the board that the chairman and I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Carabel Community Fish Display. There were representatives from Senator Montford's office, representatives from Housing Bashir's office, City of Carabel's elected officials, staff, TDC members, and members of the public. The display is located at the boat ramp on Marine Street in downtown Carabel. I added some pictures of the chairman and the mayor, the City of Carabel.
And I do want to say that I did not get notice of it until after 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. I'd already made plans. We need to let anybody know who has little activities like that they want to participate in. Got to give us a little bit more notice than a half a day.
Yes, ma'am.
I was working down there, that happened to be working, and I
You
went
had to
into
work.
it.
Yeah.
Michael ran into it.
And I
I was
didn't
working too, and I ended up there.
I didn't get the notice until after 3 o'clock on Wednesday.
Michael, if you will please be sure to let Mr. Kirk Blair know
I
about
will.
that and any future items that they may have, if they want board participation, they need to give ample notice.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Item 2, I need board action to authorize the chairman's signature on a professional services proposal for Timber Island Bridge railing repair that will be provided by Purple Ridge. A copy of the proposal and pictures of the damage are attached. That first picture I sent you, here somewhere, that actual brace, if you look at it underneath, it's further off than it looks from that picture. You know, not crossbar, I mean the brace, it's really bad. It's really bad. So I just wanted to send you guys a picture. Hey, Clay, I was explaining about Timber Island Bridge, that one brace, how bad it actually is. The picture I sent doesn't really, if you look from underneath, how bad.
It's broke up underneath the bridge.
Oh, it's gotta be fixed. I'm gonna call Michael and make sure it's gone. If it had to been for rods, it went overboard.
Can I make a motion?
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Next item, I need board action to authorize the county to enter into an agreement to purchase CitizenServe. At the budget workshop on July 23rd, while reviewing the building department's budget, I discussed the need and benefits of the county purchasing the software. We would like to engage this company as soon as possible so we can start the data migration from the current system. Attorney Schuler is assisting us with the final version of the agreement, so I'd like a motion to state contingent on his final approval of the agreement, if the board doesn't mind.
Second.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Uh,
All opposed? Motion carries.
On Monday, July 27th, Attorney Schuler and I attended a meeting of the Northwest Florida 8-County Coalition in Walton County. This meeting was very well attended. There were speakers from some of the 8 impacted counties, including their county commissioners and some of their staff, the legislative staff of U.S. Representatives Wayne Graham and Jeff Miller, staff members from Workforce Career Source, the Gulf County TDC representative, Escambia County Economic Development representative, and economists from the University of West Florida. The speakers with the most important message were those from the U.S. Department of Commerce, who discussed the importance of this one-time opportunity of leveraging restore funds along with federal funds for projects that would not be accomplished under any other circumstance. At some point, the board will be presented with a resolution to join Team North Florida. Need to comment on something, commissioners. You know, I went there, I sat there, I watched, paid attention to the room, those who were talking to each other, and, you know, interacting and talking about, did you get my email and so forth. I'm going to use an analogy. You ever have that family function or family reunion, and there's this one cousin that's kind of off to the side that didn't interact with the family for the last few months or whatever? Commissioners, that's Franklin County. I'm sorry to tell you.
Parrish, I thought you were going to attend on our behalf.
Well, I was going to finish, but I do apologize to the board and the public. I was not able to attend that, and I was not aware that I was going to be able to go to 10 o'clock Monday morning. Just reason that no one else was notified.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Had an issue coming to work, and we did close down the company, or I wasn't able to attend.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter if they want to treat us like a stepchild or whatever analogy you want to use, because we are one of the 8, and we have a place at the table that no one else can occupy, and we're not going to be elbowed out or, you know, so that, while that may be the appearance, I believe this board has wherewithal and desire to take that place at the table, and we're not going to be shoved out.
I agree. I said it to say this, though, Commissioner. I think we need to move forward with considering restore coordinator. That's where I was heading. I'm sorry. I didn't say that to say that they purposely did that. I think we need to engage what's going on more, and I think that can only be done with a restore coordinator. Now, I'm not suggesting like Gulf County, where Gulf County commissioners stepped down to do that. I wouldn't ask for any of these members here to give up their lives to do that. But I have a suggestion that I would like to plant a seed, and you guys think about this. Mr. Pierce will be back on Monday, the 8th. He already agreed with the board that when he comes back, he will move into more of a part-time position. I would recommend that the board kind of task Mr. Pierce with starting what, I know somebody's probably saying, oh, there you go, they want to keep him again. Starting what a restore coordinator would do, start interacting more with the others, and at some point when his time runs out and he's really leaving, he can hand you guys a job description and hand you a report and say to you, this is what you guys need for a restore coordinator. This is what I've been doing. This is what they need to pick up, and these are the other duties, other tasks that they need to
Something we can look
take.
at.
Yes, ma'am. That's where I was heading with this, with my.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that when the VP funding mechanisms are actually shoved into gear, that it's going to be a big task.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be a complicated task, and it's going to be a full-time job. And we don't currently have the staff to do that job at this point. We certainly don't have anyone that has the depth of knowledge about those type of mechanisms
Yes, ma'am.
to perform the job. So it's going to be, I think, highly specified to federal, state, and funding grants issues. So I think we definitely need to take a longer range look at that, and we may want to, commissioners, take a look at our budget and make an appropriation out of our budget so that we have that available for a type of position, whether it be part-time to begin with, and then ends up being full-time, but we do need to take a strong look at that, because that's going to be a big issue.
I will say, Commissioner, when I met with Dewberry, they told me there is a way to actually get funding for that type of position. Of course,
You probably can pay for part of it with administration and fees
if not all.
on some of the issues, but, so that's something that
So as soon as
we
we-
consider too.
Of course, they wouldn't say too much because we have to, agree to the signed agreement and move forward, so they're not going to give away all the information, of course. But they hinted that that possibly a way we could almost fund a position like that. So I just don't want us to fall any further behind. So, we could kind of put out in that direction if you guys see where I'm coming from. Or if you guys have a different recommendation, fine. We just need to do something.
Well, I've got a comment I want to make about the disconnect. There's always been a disconnect with the 8 counties when it comes to 7 counties and the 8 being Franklin County. It always has been. You see, wasn't we contacted at the afterthought of somebody?
Yeah, we weren't on the
Okay.
agenda, like you guys
Okay.
pointed out.
That's what I'm saying, we wasn't on the agenda, so apparently nobody's thinking about it, and we don't know anything about it unless somebody contacts us. But I can assure you, we're going to go to a meeting down in St. Petersburg, August 26th, I think. And I will stand there and tell all 8 members, or 7 members of it, plus the other 15 members of it, that Franklin County is not going to be left out in the cold. We're not going to allow them to be, like I always do. And so, you know, the disconnect may be there, but it's not Franklin County's doing.
That's right.
And let you know one thing. The legislative people, as far as Senator Mossberg's office, and Representative Bashir's office, and all the other people,
Boy, Graham, they want to-
they're not gonna let nothing happen to that Franklin County. They never will.
And we have been very well represented at all of the stakeholder meetings in this. Commissioner Sanders has attended all of the meetings. And so that's why I say, I kind of chuckle in one regard at what you say, because I know we have a place at the table, and they know that we have to be considered.
And I meant no harm, I was just trying to
Yeah.
see if we can move forward with a restored town.
Well-
That was my way of, I guess, getting your attention out of it.
But I just don't like where disconnect happened, because when this first all started, you know, back in 2010, 2011, there was a disconnect. And we fought through that, and we agreed, hey, bow our wings, and let's go on in here, let's do what we got to do. And Franklin County has done that. And we made sure that we had somebody there at those meetings. And to leave us kind of like an afterthought, I will let you know that somebody will know that. In the future, they can let us know at the appropriate time, and let everybody else know.
They're probably still upset with us a little bit for us getting that extra percentage point, that $1.7
Well, they
million.
still- they still talk about it.
That we got out
They
of pocket.
still talk about
They're
it.
mad at me and Cheryl about that.
But they still talk about it. Remember, we gave you that extra percentage, Grover, well, Grover Robinson still tells me about it.
Well, I'm not believe you guys are in. But okay, it's, you know, something I want to bring to the board's attention. Next item, inform the board that Ms. Deborah Belcher has notified the county that the DEO has tentatively ranked Franklin County Housing CDBG application in the fundable range.